low at Belterre Boulevard. You'll elevate the road where the levee will tie in from the east and the north side in Foxwood, and then you'll come back down. So when we talk about elevating the road, it was only to provide a way to provide a levee around the subdivision.
Well, coming off of Belterre, you're high and then you go down.
Yes,
So I was trying to, if you could bring it up to where Belterre is.
yes.
And then I know you had to do the levee to cross the canal and get into
That's
the
right.
neighborhood. But if we could elevate there, coming off Belterre, and make it the same height where the water doesn't flow down in and goes into the neighborhood.
Okay, so in other words, you're just saying raise that front part, not necessarily building the levee, because that wouldn't do you any good
Right, and
at that point.
Because I can't see, like you say, I can't probably do the whole entrance because you have to build a levee at that canal right there and pull a ramp to go over it,
Right,
if I'm understanding you correctly.
right. No, that's exactly right. And I don't believe that would be a problem because the issues that DNR have had have to do with the wetlands that will be crossed to the west of Foxwood.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I don't see where there would be any problem whatsoever in the parish constructing that portion of the project.
Okay. All right, well, yeah, well, let's look at it. We'll talk about it after this meeting, and we'll look into that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Councilman Wilson, you have some?
Mr. Perlew, that area right there actually needs on the north side to be as levied as high as LaPlace Park, and the entire
It's gonna tie in.
along parallel
It's
to
tying in.
Belterre Boulevard on the east
The
side
levee is gonna tie in.
will also have to be levied. And then the road could go over that levee, and I guess somebody's gonna have to participate and add maybe another pump to LaPlace Park Canal for it to pump out. Sugar Ridge is now in that part as far as I know. That part we looked at many years ago, and it should have been done many years ago.
Right.
It didn't happen. But the only way you're gonna fix that is to have levees all around it.
And I'm thinking, and Mr. Schrager, can help me, the levee with the Foxwood supposed to tie into the LaPlace Park levee, and then we was gonna bring that levee up higher too.
Yes.
Right, Ms. Roboto? That is the plan.
That's correct. The levee,
needs to be
as
done.
Mr. Wilson said, runs along the east side, which would be the Belterre Boulevard side,
Right,
between the back of the property owners' homes in Foxwood and the canal. There's a little strip there
Right.
that will have a levee. It'll run on the north side. It'll also run along the west side of Foxwood, because see, that was the major rub with the core, is that if we ran it essentially strictly along the north side of Foxwood straight through to LaPlace Park levee, that we'd be enclosing too much acreage of wetlands. The Corps is very, very strict about what they call the least practical alternative. They want you to do whatever is the least damaging, I should say, not least practical, least damaging alternative. So as a result, in order to expedite, believe it or not, the permitting process, the parish, when they submitted the application, we came down the west side of Foxwood, which would be heading south towards Airline Highway, let's say, till we get out of the wetlands and then cut back across to LaPlace Park, which is, I believe it's only about 500 feet north of
about that.
that area there where it cuts across. It's really kind of at the back or the south end of Foxwood where we cut across.
Okay.
And really, the acreage, you wouldn't want to be pumping all that acreage anyway, if it's right behind the property lines of the houses in Foxwood.
Right.
And join the levee at
LaPlace Park.
LaPlace Park. But again, raising that levee is also important because it's flooded already.
Yes.
Went over the levee. I don't know if it was this past storm, I think it did.
It did.
Did it?
Yeah.
Well, it's happened before also.
Councilman Wilson, Councilman Goff?
They clarified what I was going to say, and that was that we were going to try to, or I was going to ask anyways, if we were going to tie in Foxwood with LaPlace Park, raise it. And at what height are we looking, or how much higher are we looking to raise that, or is that a part of the permit and the process of, or
Well, it is part
does it
of
have
the
to do with
permitting
money?
process, but generally speaking, they don't quibble about what you're trying to do. It's just a question of whether they're going to let you do it or not. But along the north side of Foxwood and along the west side of Foxwood, and the part that cuts across the adjoining property, will be raised to elevation 7, which will tie in at the same elevation as the LaPlace Park levee. Now, there's a little bit of a problem on the east side between the canal along Belterre Boulevard and the back of the lots, because there's not enough room there to build it up to elevation 7 and provide enough of a top of a bank and whatnot. So that was going to only be built up to elevation 5. So it's still at the 100-year flood elevation, but it doesn't provide any freeboard.
Councilman Wilson?
I know there's not much room on the seaside to do that. Is that something that maybe some sheet pile, or is that cost preventive, or?
Yeah, we looked at it. We have looked at it early on. We did a study on this project a couple of years ago, and that was one of the things that we looked at, and it was cost prohibitive. Actually, the truth of the matter be known, if you're really getting to a jam, rather than doing a 2-to-1 side slope on the levee, you could do 1-to-1 and raise it up. It's less than ideal, to be honest with you, but if it did become a problem, it could be done.
I'm sorry, President Robotham, if you
Yes.
want to engage
Provides
in the
100-year
discussion.
flood protection.
Well, please, Mr. Shred, just stay on top of it. Let's make this project here come to pass too, because those residents are repairing their homes back there, some beautiful homes, and I hate to see they go through that again.
Yes, sir, I understand.
Mr. Shred, as we had our discussion earlier today, let's do it right the first time. We don't have to come back and do it the second.
Yes, ma'am, I understand that.
And I know it's cost and I know it's money, but when it's my house, it's not money and it's not cost. And I want to protect the residents and solve the problems. If we solve the problems and we think we solved it and it didn't, all we've done is throw money in the garbage. So let's make sure whatever project we do, the solution will be proper.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
Thank you. Next item, oh, sorry. Thank you, Councilman Parlow as well. Next item on the agenda, Rainey Wilson, Lonnie and Mary Vicknair, 469 West 19th Street. I'm sorry, the prior item, Mr. Wilson asked that we remove that item. He addressed it earlier in the previous discussion.
It's like it's either we freeze or we... I know, I can't win.
Mr. Vicknair, would you state your name, your address, and
My name is Lonnie
What's the
Vicknair,
problem?
Sr. I am the president of Concerned Citizens of Reserve. I live at 101 West 17th Street, Reserve, Louisiana. Star Terrace, Dutch Bayou, and Wine Alley, the forgotten parts of Reserve. I'd like to start with good evening, Parish President and Council. I'm here to request that the business at 469 West 19th Street called Agri South not be allowed to operate. They're storing tons of burnt grain and bagasse. The smell is unbelievable. After further investigation, I was told by Donald from DEQ that the name of the person running the facility is Chip Aberdee. He also gave me the name and address of the business, which is Agri South on West 19th Street. How does the DEQ have this information and the parish is not aware of this business operating in the parish? I then called code enforcement. They sent out Gregory. At first, he didn't even see the tons of burnt grain stacked up at the facility. But then he said he was going to go back and check it out. He then returned to my house and told me that he seen and smelt what I was talking about. I guess he was told not to put in his report what he saw and smelt because we have received no report. Then my wife, Mary Vicknair, started calling the planning and zoning on the 3rd and 4th of December, only to find out that they were in violation because they did not have an occupational license. She then started calling our councilman, Mr. Randy Wilson, and he wasn't aware of any business operating at that facility and said he would go check it out. My wife then spoke to Bernadette with planning and zoning, and she said they don't need an occupational license, but my wife was told on the 3rd and 4th that they needed one. What is it? They need one or they don't? The definition of occupied, engaged, in use, being used by a person, busy, activity, or fully engaged in some activity. Our main concern is we get a break from ADM grain elevator from the dust, only to have a north wind blowing this burnt hog pen smell into our homes. We can't live inside. We can't enjoy outside. What are we supposed to do? We're just asking for a little help. The few questions I would like to be answered tonight are, do they need an occupational license or not? Because there are daily activities going on as such as running equipment to stir the piles of burnt grain to stop it from burning. We passed out a letter with the story that was written in the newspaper. If y'all didn't know nothing about this place, how does the fire department have a number to call when there's a 911 report that the building is on fire? They don't go out to the scene. They call this number to have the man go there and stir the stuff up to stop it from burning, to stop people from complaining that the building's on fire. Third question, how can we put a stop to our health being in danger by Agri South and ADM grain elevator? My final question is, Ms. Rabada, me and my wife have tried on several occasions to meet with you, only to be ushered out by your secretary or employees. When can we meet with you? You ran on an open door policy, and we would like to get a foot in your door to discuss some of the issues we have in our neighborhood. LAC Chapter 29, odor regulations per DEQ, required to operate the facility so that off-site odors do not cause a nuisance. Thank you for your time and answers to these questions. My name is Lonnie Vicknair, Sr.
Thank you, Mr. Vicknair. Mr. Wilson, do you, okay.
These neighborhoods,
And we have some of the stuff
Mr.
right here, if y'all
Lonnie.
like to smell it.
Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Vicknair is speaking of, I mean, they've already been plagued with the dust, actually from both of the grain elevators, and they're just asking for some help, that they don't get any more, harm than what's already being done right now. And if you pass there, you see the problem, because you're gonna see dust, half-inch thick on everything. They're just asking for some help, and as far as all the license and stuff is concerned, I still don't know if they have occupational license or exactly what they're doing. That's gonna be after somebody out of that department have to answer that.
Everybody passes the buck and says, this is not my department, this is not my department. If y'all take some of the loopholes out of the ordinances y'all have, y'all would get some of the problems y'all have with the blighted houses and other things in the parish. There's always a loophole behind every ordinance. Take those loopholes out so we can get good answers and some help.
Thank you, Mr. Vicknair. I'd like to ask Ms. Sutherland, one of the first questions you asked was, do they need a permit to operate? I'd like to hear from.
They need an occupational license to operate, yes.
Do they have one?
They do not have an occupational license. They are in the process of getting their fire marshal approval. On the 3 occasions that I sent, 2 occasions a code officer, and then on the 3rd occasion, Christy Murray, who's a certified building official, she went out as well on 3 different occasions. And at the time, they were not observed to be operating a business. They do have their grain stored out there on the side of the building, but they are not operating. Their machinery was not put together, and I think they have to process the machinery. But again, we don't go out every day, and we're not out there 24/7. So, you know, the last time we checked was January 11th was the follow-up inspection. Again, according to my 2 code officers and Ms. Murray, there was no odor observed. DEQ, Mr. Donald, actually went out there. I think his name is Donald Coding. He actually went out from DEQ standpoint. He didn't observe an odor, but again, you know, based on consultation with legal counsel, and I think Mr. Vigner actually gave you the Louisiana revised statute that says that DEQ is responsible for monitoring air quality emissions, which includes smells and odors
So
for
they don't-
industrial facilities.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with this property at all. I'm just trying to help you get some answers. If you said they don't have an occupational license and they do need that to operate, how are they able to do anything at the premises?
They are not operating. They have the grain stored. They were setting up when the code officer went out the first time. He informed them that until they received an occupational license, that they were not supposed to, you know, do any other operations or any other business. We were contacted by the owner as well as I think the manager of AgriSouth, and they are registered with the Secretary of State's office, and that's why they do have. I think DEQ is probably aware of that particular company, but they were advised and they informed us that they would shut their gates and they would not be operating until they came in with their fire marshal approval and their complete application to submit to planning and zoning. Again, planning and zoning's job, as far as occupational licenses are concerned, is to sign off stating that the zoning is correct for that type of business that you want to run in that particular district. Then it goes through the administration and it goes to the sheriff who issues the occupational licenses.
Thank you. Councilman Paraloo?
Ms. Sutherland,
Yes.
is that property for land use, dumping grain on the ground? Because it seems to me at a grain elevator, when you dump rotten grain on the ground, I know Cargill, they build a dome with aeration to put that in a bin where you have to have an aeration. Why is they being allowed to dump that in an open field like that?
The way our code is written, it refers to liquid like petroleum and fuel storage in tanks. It doesn't state grains that they have to be stored in tanks.
Well, I know all grain, that's how Cargill built that big dome next door, and they have aeration bins in that grain elevator for rotten products like that, where it's aerated, where it doesn't affect the public. Mm-hmm. And why they're allowed to do that, I don't know. Because maybe they need to bring some government agents in there beside DEQ and look at that.
Councilman Madair?
Well, I have a couple of questions. Okay, if they don't have occupational license, okay, and I know you say you sent someone over there to see if they was operating. Okay, and if we find out that they have operated since they was warned not to, do we have anything in code enforcement that can penalize them or any type of penalty for operating without a license? Do we have anything in place?
We would have to issue them a misdemeanor summons.
Okay, when you say a misdemeanor summons, what exactly do that entail?
That's like a citation, a ticket.
It's a fine?
That'll be issued by, for misdemeanor summons, we have to contact the sheriff's office, because our code officers are not commissioned. They would come out, they would issue the misdemeanor summons on our behalf. The code officer would serve as the witness, and then they would have to appear in criminal misdemeanor court.
Okay, because it's quite obvious, and I had a problem, not dissimilar as far as when someone is warned not to don't have a permit. Okay, and I heard you say we can't go out there 24/7 and watch them. I understand that. But when you have someone that's in question of violating like they are, I think we should be able to send someone at least one time a day, just ride by to see if any activity is going on. Because if you rely just on their word, they will continue to operate. I can tell you that, okay? Because I had some permits issued with people in my area wasn't supposed to be building on a particular building, even though there was code enforcement went out there and stopped them. When code enforcement left, they started back the next day again. So I do think when we have a business that's in question of violating some of our policy as far as operation or permit, we should, in that particular area, we should send that code enforcement, if not every day, every other day, to take a look to make sure that they are not operating illegally. And it seems as though that they may have been operating illegally from the get-go. So I wouldn't trust them to say that they're not doing it now. And without a doubt, to have that grand store in the open field is definitely a problem, because we have rainstorm, we have a lot of wind. Okay, when that wind blows, it's all over. Okay, so we have to find a way to protect the citizens, and it's our job. Okay, if it's not an ordinance already, then we need to put one in place, because this cannot go on like this. You know, I mean, it's just blowing in the wind. That's a problem.
Thank you. Councilman Goff?
I think we need a clarification on, because they did call me, and I rode out there. I didn't smell it at the time, and that's what I reported. That's what I told you when I called you. I did not smell it at the time. I also would, when I called Miss Sutherland, we talked. I think there needs to be an explanation of needing an occupational license and not needing one, or why. Because when I called, she said the same thing. No, they didn't have one. But suppose and I'm just going to compare it to a T-shirt shop. You get your raw materials in, and you start to store. You fix your shelves. You get things prepared to open for business. And as long as you haven't opened for business, if I'm correct, or unless I'm misunderstood also, you really don't have to, or you may be applying for or have applied for your occupational license, correct?
That was the explanation that I gave to you, as well as to Mr. Vignair, on my judgment as far as them not operating.
Okay.
It's the same as any other business that goes in there. They may do some, painting or whatever on the walls and some cosmetics to their suite, and then they stock their merchandise on their shelves before they open their doors to begin operating, buying, selling to the public, trading, processing, manufacturing. They have to come in and get their occupational license.
Okay.
To me, that is when they begin operating.
Okay. Unfortunately, for the Vignairs, the raw material is one that emits an odor, especially if the wind blows. Seems like, just what the other council persons have said, we've got to change or amend our ordinance on how we store some of these raw materials. And in this case, that could be hazardous, or it could be not hazardous. But for us, we're not the experts. So just as I told you, we called DEQ. They went out there. What did they say? I'll ask Ms. Sutherland, or their findings was, didn't they do an air quality test?
They said that they responded to the complaint. The initial complaint was not anything to do with an occupational license. It was a burnt odor smell. And that was, I believe, the complaint that was called into DEQ. That is what DEQ responded to. They said that they did not observe any odors.
Okay. So
I don't know if they did do an actual air quality test. I don't have the results of that.
I guess what I'm getting at is that Mr. Rainey went out there. I know I went out there. I'm not an expert, though. But I don't want you to seem like you're coming in here and saying we haven't done anything to work with you or trying to see what the problem is. Now, our laws seem like we need to amend an ordinance or do something that we take care of chemicals or certain products that are coming in that are different than the normal raw materials. Because it seems as though this is something that we're not used to dealing with. You're in an industrial park or in an industrial zoned area. I'm looking at these pictures, and I'm not sure if this comes from that product or if it comes from the plant next door, Cargill. So
Would you speak to us and come into our neighborhood when it's happening?
did.
Mr. Vickner,
We
I'm
can
sorry.
show you.
And that's what I'm
Sorry.
saying. I
Mr.
did
Goff,
go
finish.
through there, and I didn't see, it was a clear day, so I didn't see this being emitted. As Mr. Madair says, you know, maybe it's something that every day, I have not been there every day, but from these pictures, I'm not sure what it's coming from. I can't just, you're saying, you know, don't allow this business to open up. Suppose it's a business that's already existing.
It's existing without permits.
No, I meant like Cargill or one of the other businesses. So it's something that we have to be sure we're making the right or decision or we're making sure we're doing the right thing. And one thing seems to be an amendment to an ordinance to take care of such materials.
Can I speak?
Thank you. Councilman Goff, give me 1 second, please. Do you have anything else, Councilman Goff? Is that all? Next, I have Councilman Wilson, and then I'll come back to the public discussion once we wrap up here.
Okay.
Well, one of the things is they have not applied yet, so we don't know exactly what they're going to apply for. If it has something to do with biofuels or to that nature, they may not be zoned properly to do that. So that means that they would have to come back us to the zoning and get a rezoning. And I said, there's not too much we could do until they start that process so we can see exactly what they're doing.
Right.
But,
It'll be too late then.
huh?
It'll be too late then.
Thank you. Councilman Wilson?
No,
any
it's not gonna
further-
be too late, because if they can't operate this thing in the zone, it's a zoning issue at this point, a rezoning would have to take place. And, you bring the whole neighborhood, but, I mean, I think we're gonna stand up for you. I was told that bird stuff was gonna be covered, and as far as I can see, it hasn't been. And, like I said, this is just the beginning, not the end.
Thank you. Councilwoman Millette?
I want to just kind of reiterate what Mr. Goff said. We have ordinances regarding oil and other things that are stored in tanks, but we just don't have anything specific to grain or odorous materials. And I would kind of like direct our legal counsel to look into that and make a motion to have them look into that to see what we have to do to put some teeth in here so they're not going through a loophole. So there isn't, there's an aerator like at Cargill to prevent this odorous from anybody, because I do know it's an industrial area, and I know there's going to be odors that are going to be emitted because it is industrial. However, we have to still protect the residents that do live there, and at the same time be friendly to businesses. So there has to be a compromise somewhere, and I would kind of like to ask legal to kind of check into this so we can find out a happy medium for everyone involved.
Thank you. Councilman Snyder?
Yes, I did hear you mention something about fire. Does it auto ignite?
It's burnt grain.
Is
It
it?
catches on fire. The fire department has received a 911 call, and they are told not to respond, to call this certain number, and the guy will go out there and stir the stuff up. That's operating.
So it auto ignites. It auto ignites, and it just starts the fire by itself. That should be something against that right there. And I know they got some nuisance odors in our ordinances. That way we can look at. I agree with most of these my comrades here that we don't want to run anybody out of business, but we want to show we take care of our people also. And I've worked in the chemical plant for 30 years, and then we had problems. We got sued. We lost the suit because of odor. But only thing I can tell you this now, just document everything. And that's all you got to do. Keep documenting it. We get something done about it. But I don't know if it auto ignites and it's out there in the open, that should be an issue right there.
I'm sorry, Councilman Wilson. Anything further, Councilman Snyder? President Roboto, would you like to address?
Yes. First of all, Mr. and Mrs. Vickner, from the moment you called our office or we found out about it, we've been working on it. We have legal counsel here. We have contacted DEQ. We pulled their regulations. Again, you're providing a little more information tonight than I was familiar with.
We gave that to Bernadette.
And Ms. Sutherland.
And
Sullivan.
actually, the part that I wasn't aware of was that this burns and it's on fire and somebody's out there stirring it up. Again, the information we received was that as a regular business, this business was setting up to open and operate. However, they were not operating. They had not received their fire marshal approval. They had not put their equipment in place. It was not there. But there was contact made with the owner and manager to warn them you cannot operate without an occupational license, that there had been complaints about the smell. We were following up with DEQ. At some point, we got information DEQ didn't think they were responsible. However, their law says they are responsible. So we are going to follow up. With regard to coming to my office, I returned back to the parish tonight. I'm not sure when you were there, but if there's a message from my assistant or someone there, I'll be happy to meet with you. We did follow up with everyone involved and basically try to verify the zoning, which is my understanding. It is I-2. We'll have legal counsel address that, and our goal is to make sure that what's happening there is appropriate and correct. Obviously, if there's a smell that's being emitted, we may not have smelled it, but that's not to say it's not there. So please don't take, what everybody is saying as an objection to what you're saying. You've smelled it. These people are saying when they went out there, they didn't, but that's not to say it's not there. But if you're telling us, and I've asked my public safety director to find out what's going on with the fire departments, if that is actually occurring, then we need to know that. So obviously there is something going on if the fire department is having to be called or calling somebody out to go and stir up something that's catching on fire, which might be another danger. Our goal is to one, protect you, and we're trying to do that. We are following up. I expect my staff to. The pieces of information that you brought out tonight are inconsistent with what I've been told. So we will continue to follow up. The zoning appears to be appropriate. We have contacted, and they are responsible, DEQ. The owner or whoever you've been speaking with, Ms. Sutherland, you will need to get her back on the phone tomorrow and find out exactly what is happening and if any of this is occurring. And again, until there's an occupational license that's been approved, they are not to operate a business.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Who gave them the permission to go put all that tons and tons of grain and gases out on that property?
That is not something that requires permission.
Who would stock a facility that's not planning on opening?
No,
You
no.
stock a clothing store.
No, we're not
that's gonna
saying,
open.
yeah, they do plan on
That was
opening.
the information we was given. about
No.
a clothing
If you
store.
see the pictures, you can see they're in there. They're
Right.
in there, and they're doing it.
But we didn't get the
picture.
pictures. Do you have the pictures?
No, they all.
Okay, well, it would be helpful if, Ms.
We tried
Sutherland
on several
actually
occasions
directs.
in the past to get in your office and we can't.
I was not here, so if,
In the past year, man.
well,
Like a whole year. That's no lie.
and so this has been going on a year?
No, this.
Just with the ADM and now this.
I mean, we get a break from
Oh, I-
ADM, and here we got northeast wind, and we smelling this hog pen burnt smell.
Okay.
I mean, I just was diagnosed not even a month ago with asthma and bronchitis.
And I think if it's the same case, we did meet with ADM, we had DEQ. Mr. On-Call handled your case?
Nobody,
with,
nobody talked to us. Saying
I'd like to ask if it's possible. I know President Robotham has said that she will meet with you all. Obviously, she said that she doesn't. They don't. There's some misinformation here.
Right.
So, if you'd like to schedule an appointment and meet with her to further discuss it, I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to handle it all.
there's
Right.
nothing-
There's not
nothing
too much
tonight.
we can do right now
But,
unless we get all the information.
I think Ms. Sutherland has your number. I'll have my assistant call you to set up an appointment. In the interim, we'll bring the information we have. You bring what you have. I have advised two things. Joby, I need you to contact the fire department and verify what has been told. Angelique, contact the owner again and verify that there is no activity going on there. There is no burning. And if there is, that all of it is to cease until there's an occupational license. Yes.
They're using it for cattle feed.
I don't know how to get anything out of it.
They taking the burnt grain and they mixing it with the gases.
Again, something that obviously won't be settled tonight, but please don't think that we're not working on this. The last time I was here, our legal meeting was specifically on this incident and what we needed to do to proceed. So whether you're with me or not, we are actually trying to work on resolving this case, and my staff is tasked with making sure there is an adequate response that remains within the legal realm. and we will get back with you. I'll have my assistant give you a call to set up a meeting, and I expect the other two will take care of their task tomorrow.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Vicknair?
The business may be located in industrial. I am personally located in C1. The back of my street is residential. All of Star Terrace is residential. So just the business is in industrial.
Thank
They
you.
said that we're all industrial. We're not all industrial.
We're all sitting here.
I'm sorry, can you just tell us your name for the,
I'm a concerned citizen. My name's Kevin Van Camp. I live down the street at 176 West 17th Street.
thank you, sir.
And the problem herein lies is that we keep trying and trying and trying to get help in our neighborhood. And we've talked to DEQ. You call DEQ. DEQ comes out. They come out when they feel like coming out, not when the issue is happening. They come out 2 hours after the issue when they've already been called and shut down for whatever process they were doing. Well, we don't have any type of monitoring air quality stations in our neighborhood. We just incorporated a school into our neighborhood, okay? This is the problem. If this stuff is out there and it's sitting on the ground, I can't pay to compound test at $80 a compound to see if this is going to affect me or my family. My dog's outside breathing this, my air conditioning, through in my house. There's all kinds of stuff that this is going to create. So we're here as a neighborhood trying to say we need help because there's no ordinances in place for this burnt stuff or any grain issue as far as that goes. I've got videos. It looks like it's snowing in my neighborhood. I have surveillance cameras all over my home. I have video. It looks like it's snowing in reserve. Okay? I don't want this to come down to a issue where we bring the federal people in and we get to a deep down into it, because we don't want that. We want to be taken care of, and we want this issue to be resolved. That is what we're asking for. We're not asking for everything. We're just asking for our health, because this is going to cause us health problems down the line, and then we have to incur those costs. Not the people that are putting stuff out and just mixing it on the ground. They're not going to deal with that. We're going to deal with that. So all we're asking you guys is to help us out, get on our side, and take the loopholes out of some of these little things that's happening in this parish. I've been here for 15 years, and I love this parish. I have a business in this parish, and I would like to keep it in this parish. So I just ask you guys to help us out with this situation and see what we can do about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, sure.
My name is Sandra Romade. I live at 165 West 17th Street. I have a big health problem. I stay with upper respiratory infection because of all of this. If I could move tomorrow, I would, but I can't. I pass by every morning at 6:45, and this place is operating. I bring my grandson to school. I come back. When he gets off at 2 o'clock, I pass right in front of it again. This is operating. I'm the one took the pictures. We went in the yard to take pictures. And nobody tried to stop me because the man told me, ma'am, you can't do nothing about what we're doing.
And that is the very big problem that we're having here. And there's a lot of neighbors that don't want to speak out. They don't want to come forward because they don't want to be chastised by any problems that might occur because of us doing what we're doing. You see, that's the problem here. We don't have air quality checks. We want an air quality station in our neighborhood that's monitoring our air 24 hours a day. And then DEQ can say, okay, now we have a problem. Mm-hmm. But right now,
we're fighting this. We're fighting this. Our next big fight, we're going to be right back over here. Because Marathon bought all the sugarcane fields coming all the way to 19th Street. So we're going to be right back. They're killing us. They are.
But the issue at hand is the grain and the stored compounds outside. There's children going to school right there, not even a quarter mile from that location.
It depends on which way the wind blows. There's no studies that says this isn't going to affect us in any kind of way. And there's no funding to do those studies, from what I understand. So unless it's a citizen like me that has a business in the parish and can afford to help my fellow neighbors out by getting compound tests done, that's the next step we're going to take. But we want to give you guys the opportunity to come to us as our parish councilman and help us out. Don't keep brushing us underneath the blanket, because we need help. It's killing us every day.
I mean, we're an elderly neighborhood. We're bringing our grandchildren. We can't let them go outside. Everybody's got asthma attacks. The minute you come down 17th, 18th, 19th Street, asthma attack.
I have a question just of administration really quick. Is it possible that we can have someone, maybe even from our public safety department at that time, 6:45, to see what's going on at the property?
I think we can send
Send okay, thank you. Councilman Madere wanted to speak. Any one of you all have any more comments or?
Now that you broadcast, they're gonna go check, they won't be there.
Oh, just to let you know.
And all the little faces everybody makes, it's not funny. It's not funny, it's our life and it's our health. All the little smirks and comments you get back from people when you call, that's not what it's about. It's about our health.
I have a text that somebody sent me. I don't know who this phone number is. And it says, fighting a losing battle.
Now, as she said, like she's talking about, and I was saying before, it is our turn to speak. And now that we're here and we want to speak, the air quality is a problem. And I can't stress this, I don't know how many times. If a quality station is not set up, I will personally set one up in my neighborhood to prove that fact that that's happening. That's how bad it's getting, that people like me have to come forward that have a business here, that employ people here, to try to help my fellow people out in the neighborhood, because nobody wants to stand up for themselves. Okay? That's why that's why we're all here. It's for this just to be straightened out. It's our children, it's their grandchildren, just had a baby born yesterday, a new infant. These are the situations. So like once before we said, we would like to help. We're tired of paying for our roofs that have to be fixed, our air conditioners have to be fixed, our cars got to be washed every day. I mean, it's just terrible. Our dogs live outside, they're breathing in stuff every day. So until some studies are done, this isn't really going to be fully understood. But what we're asking you guys is to look into this matter a little more closely, because it seems to be it's brushing over everybody's eyes when this comes up, and we can't have that. This has to be solved, because we don't want this to be a documentary about Reserve Louisiana and why are we killing people in Reserve. We don't need that. We need it to be, to solve the issue to be done, and we need help. So that's all we're
My
asking.
thing is, if they are putting this stuff for cattle feed, what are we eating? If they mixing that with biogases and burnt grain, I wouldn't want to eat that.
We breathe it every day.
Thank you, Councilman Madere.
Yes, after listening to everyone, I'm more than sure that this council sees the problem, and we'll get together and we'll try to see what we can do is check into the ordinance and all possibility as to what's going on out there. And I'm like this, okay? I love to have businesses in St. John Parish, without a doubt. But when it comes down between business and the health of the community, I choose the community.
Yes.
Okay, I'm on the side of the residents. Okay, I want business. But if business that come in is going to damage the resident or cause a problem, I'm for the residents all the time. So we have to look into what we can do to make this better, for the people in that area. And like I say, if this thing is not contained, it's not only going to go by your house, it's the house past your house and the house past your house.
Then the school.
It goes when the wind blows. Okay, and when you have kids involved, that's even more. Thank you.
Any further discussion from the council? Any further discussion from the council? I'd like to just thank you guys even for coming out. Oh, I'm sorry. You had something? I was just going to thank you all for coming. I know, as you mentioned, it takes a lot of courage sometimes to come forward and speak out about something that's going on in your neighborhood. So I wanted to, I appreciate that. I know that this council is going to be committed to assisting President Robottom. She's just tasked her staff with finding out what's going on, and hopefully we can come to a solution that's in the best interest of you guys.
Okay, well, I'd like to just thank all you guys for accepting and listening to what we had to say, and we appreciate all the help we can get.
Thank you.
And once again, we're the concerned citizens of Reserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vicknair. Next item on the agenda, old business. There's no old business. Next item, new business. Changing of the February 12, 2013 council meeting date. The next council meeting, I'm sorry, President Robottom. President Robottom. I'm sorry, if y'all want to talk outside, just. Apologize for that. The next council meeting actually falls on Mardi Gras Day, so I would like to get a motion from someone that we move it to the following date if there's no objections. It is Ash Wednesday, but if we move it to Thursday, then we'll miss the cutoff, so all of the ordinances would have to be delayed. So if there's no objections to, no, we've checked that. There's no conflicts.
I make a motion that we move it to Ash Wednesday.
February 13, 2013. I have a motion and a second from Councilman Paraloo. Please use your lights. That item carries. Next item, Teresa Rogers, Resolution 13-02, a resolution of the St. John the Baptist Parish Council approving the application for grant funds from the Governor's Office of Community Development Community Water Enrichment Fund Program for improvements to the Reserve and LaPlace water distribution systems.
Administration is seeking approval for the application of grant funds in the amount of $151,698 for improvement of the Reserve and LaPlace water distribution systems. These improvements will include removing the existing booster station and replacing the associated system valves to improve operation. This will improve the control of the waterways between LaPlace and Reserve and continue to provide safe drinking water.
Thank you. You've heard the request from administration. I will accept the motion at this time. I have a motion by Councilman Madair, second by Councilman Paraloo. Any discussion from the council? Councilman Millette?
I just want to ask a real simple question. This is to connect the Lyons water plant to the LaPlace part of the parish?
Not exactly. There's a booster station that is close to the DuPont curve, and that can be removed. And with these with this valving system, there can be better connectivity between.
So it has nothing to do with bringing the water from Reserve to LaPlace?
It provides for better connectivity.
Yes, it does. Yes. It's just
Is Virgil in here? He can explain it better than I can, or Chuck Savoy. But it does improve connectivity. I can't tell you that increases flow or any of that. And actually, this was the third project in an application that we made at this time last year. But the first two water projects, which included the 12-inch line on the West Bank and the additional water project, cost more than we thought it was, so we couldn't utilize the grant last year to fund 3 projects. It funded the first 2. This was supposed to be the third project, so this year, and we're pretty sure this project is going to cost more than $100,000, and we can at that time, if this grant is approved, we can at that time look at how much money is left and submit a revised scope of work and do yet another water project. But this is the one we are applying for the grant funds with.
Thank you.
So Ms. Millette had asked if this was going to help improve the water flow from Reserve to LaPlace. And I said that this would improve connectivity, but you could give a more scientific answer to that question.
Thank you, boss. I don't know if it's scientific, but yes, to answer your question. Yeah, it's simple. We're looping right now from the north side by the airline, so we can move water from reserve to Laplace. And now what we're doing is we're improving the system that is very deteriorated on the southern side of reserve by the DuPont curve by Mr. Lucian's house, pretty close to that. It's a system that's been there for many, many years with a small booster pump and does nothing but create problems and is leaking. So we will replace that system, and the improvement will come from an 8-inch distribution line and connect to Laplace water, and we'll have it isolated, and if we need it, now we can supply water from both sides of the area.
Thank you. Any further discussion from the council? Please use your lights. Thank you. The next item, obviously, President Robotham had to walk outside. I'll skip over the next two items. We do have executive session, so I'd like to have a... Okay, I'd like to have a motion to go into executive session to discuss Laplace industrial properties. I have a motion and a sec. And the case number is docket number 61301. And at this time, I'd like to ask that we, I'm sorry? Please use your lights, I'm sorry. Sorry. At this time, if we could clear out the chamber, and after executive session, we'll come back. Thank you. I'll accept a motion to go back into the regular session. I have a motion, second. There was no action as a result of the executive session. Next item, president remarks. Just when you think it'll never get here, it comes up quicker than you think.
Okay. Again, I want to thank everybody who participated in Martin Luther King Jr. March and Parade, and the staff who filled in and worked with Reverend Bering and the West Bank Civic Association to put on both events. I understand there were a number of young people in attendance, and both were extremely successful. I did have the fortunate opportunity to visit the Martin Luther King Memorial with my mother, who obviously witnessed King's dream, and obviously myself, who, you know, I'd like to consider myself being able to live part of that dream, and my daughter, a third generation, who hopefully will take that dream to another level. I'd also like to thank the students at Laplace Elementary for participating in the bike walk to school event. We had previously scheduled it after giving out the helmets and locks and backpacks, and it was on a day that school was canceled. But last Friday at 7:30, one of our coldest days, many of them rode their bicycles and walked. And talking with some of the teachers since we initiated that program, Safe Routes to School, they've had more participation with riders and walkers, and it's helped with some of the congestion that occurs at Laplace Elementary. World Renew, that's a group we mentioned to you. It's a faith-based organization that specializes in disaster response. They have volunteers in the areas. They have the green shirts. They're going to be going door to door through January the 31st from 9 o'clock to 5. And the purpose is to get assessments of some of the current needs of our hurricane survivors, and try to get a status to provide to those who are going to assist with recovery. So look for them. They'll have the green shirts with the World Renew logo and identification tags, as well as a letter of introduction from the long-term recovery group. We had some good news today. The deadline for filing Isaac-related flood insurance claims with FEMA has been extended, and this is the third time. It's been extended through February the 21st. It's a 30-day extension. Understanding that flooding took place over 3 days, so the 30 days is from whenever your home flooded. So we encourage